Hello and welcome to Internet Business Mastery Online at internetbusinessmastery.com. I'm Sterling.
And I'm Jay.
And we're here to help you escape the 9-to-5 and live the lifestyle of your dreams by turning your life's passion into a profitable internet business, even if you're just getting started today. Now, on this episode of Internet Business Mastery, we have an interview with Google Adwords Master, Perry Marshall. And in the quick tip, we reveal our latest favorite tool for managing Twitter and Facebook.
Welcome to InternetBusinessMastery.com, where you will learn to take control, make more money, and start an internet business today. Here are your hosts, Sterling and Jay.
We'd also like to remind you that if you'd like to get a jump start on creating your own profitable internet business using our proven system, you can claim your risk-free trial membership to the Internet Business Mastery Academy by going to freeaudiogift.com. Whew! So, Jay,
that's a mouthful.
What's going on?
Well, Sterling, the time has come for me to declare bankruptcy, actually.
Yeah, I was wondering when that would happen. You spend like crazy.
What? Yeah, actually, it's Facebook bankruptcy that I'm declaring, not to shock anybody too much with that opener. I'm declaring Facebook bankruptcy. What do I mean by that? In fact, both of us have been considering this, and the time has come. Yeah, it's that whole eternal question in Facebook of how do you balance the personal and the business? And, for the last few years, the decision has been, well, I'll just follow, anybody who friends me, I'll pretty much just, accept the connection. And, obviously when we've got an online profile with this show and we meet people at conferences, there's just lots and lots of people who want to connect with you, which is great. And I certainly, to a degree, I've really enjoyed having those connections with all kinds of people, but now it's kind of gotten out of hand and it's gotten more difficult I find, to connect with family and friends and the people I do interact with on a regular basis. And then there's questions like, well, what business stuff do I post? The personal people are going to get tired of that, or what personal stuff do I post and will the business people get tired of that? And it started to feel like, well, the decision, really the best solution is just to strip down the profile, remove all connections except for family, friends, and people I interact with on a regular basis, and allow people to follow us on a business kind of level to get tips and our latest content, and maybe even a little peppering of personal stuff as well through what Facebook calls the fan page. Which we've started an Internet Business Mastery fan page. We've actually had that for a while, but not really made much of a distinction. But I'm feeling good about that decision now to just remove all the connections on the profile except for those, limited really personal connections, and then kind of guide everyone over to the fan page, which incidentally you can find at facebook.com/Internet Business Mastery. Sterling, I know you've been thinking about this as well recently. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely doing the same thing. I found that I've never really particularly enjoyed Facebook, and I realized it's because mostly, I've just mostly used it as, a marketing tool, right, as opposed to, what a lot of people seem to be using it as. And, you generally, if you're using it for business as well, I know for you keeping your Glee memorabilia, fascination that you have under wraps. You don't want to put that out to the world. Right. I know that, you have to do stuff like that. And it seems like it'll be nice to be able to open up and just have that be that, what it was built for, being able to have your friend and family base and then just have fan page stuff for the business stuff. So I'm going to see if Facebook can actually be enjoyable as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So does this mean, are you going to start posting pictures of, the sweaters you've been knitting and things like that?
Yeah, now I can without any worry of scrutiny. My, my macrame fascination I have. So I'll be able to finally do that. And, one of the other things too is I always kind of kept certain things like, personally, I didn't want my kids to be kind of forced into the business thing. So right. I wouldn't put up too many pictures of, my kids and that kind of stuff. So, now, everybody I know, all my family is on Facebook, and they never really get to see those family trip pictures and stuff like that. Like most people use it for things like that. And now it seems like it'll be fun to be able to put that stuff up.
So are you worried at all about people being offended that you're going to be removing some connections on Facebook?
Well, so far we've been putting out, some, I don't even know what it's called, just updates. I was going to say tweets, the updates on Facebook saying that we're going to do it. And everybody seems to be very positive about it. So, I hope people don't take offense. It's just, we now have a place, like you said, facebook.com, Internet Business Mastery. That's where we're going to have all the stuff to do with business and when we're at seminars and going places like that and trying to meet up with people, we're going to do all of that there now instead of just on our personal profiles. And then also it'll all be in one place. So, you know what I mean? Like if they're following us both separately and, I don't know, it just seems like having that one central place is better anyway.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it works and being able to kind of, I guess, enjoy Facebook like a normal normal person.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be nice. So I guess what we'll have to do is maybe come back in the show a couple months down the line or whatever and report back to people on how that kind of transition worked out. So stay tuned for that.
Well, and in case you're thinking you might miss it, we will still be putting up any sort of audio karaoke of him singing Glee songs. Maybe if there's enough outcry for that, we will put that in the business page. So there you go.
It's all about giving people what they want, right? That's
exactly.
What we teach.
And now, the features segment.
Hey, it's Jay here, and we have a great interview lined up for today. Also joining me on the line here is Sterling, and then we've got our special guest for today is Perry Marshall, somebody that I've followed and learned from for several years now and had the pleasure of meeting in person finally after literally 5-6 years of following his stuff. Met him recently at a little event in Miami, and so that was a pleasure to get to know him a little bit and asked him if he'd be willing to come on the show and do an interview with us, and he said, sure thing, that would be great, after I kind of told him about the show and what we were up to. And Perry is very well known for his work with Google Adwords. He's a best-selling author and has helped literally 100,000 plus businesses and advertisers to save millions and billions of dollars because of the AdWords mistakes that he helps them to avoid. And I guess he's best known for his definitive guide to Google AdWords, which is kind of the go-to source for getting started with AdWords. I know that's where I first learned about AdWords, and probably most of what I know about AdWords I've gotten from that book as well. So
yeah, I think that was probably the second thing I ever bought when it came to internet business and internet marketing.
That might be the case with me too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because if the first few things you buy are bad, they might never hear from you again.
Yeah.
Business is not a kind place to make mistakes.
This is true. Well, so Perry, thank you for joining us. And I guess let's start out by having you tell us just a bit about how you got started in internet business. I know you used to be an engineer like myself, but what is it that brought you into the world of marketing and internet business?
Well, just real quickly, I want to give you some appreciation for making a serious effort to provide a real online marketing education, because there's a lot of cheesy stuff out there, and there's a lot of people that go into a real battle with plastic swords and helmets, and they get crushed. And so, I appreciate the fact that you guys are a cut above. So,
thank you.
In that spirit, yeah, I originally was an engineer, and I was actually designing speakers, and I also worked in industrial equipment and stuff like that, and eventually I went into sales, and I became a sales manager of a really small company back in the late 90s, and our customers were ahead of the curve in technology. Our customers were engineers, and they were using the internet back in 97 to actually buy things and, make buying decisions and research projects and stuff, which, most people weren't really quite to that stage yet. And so I jumped in with both feet, and I'm figuring out how to generate leads and get visitors to our website. And this was not just like some fun project. This was kind of life and death for me. It really was. I had worked for 2 years as a sales rep, basically pounding the phone and trying to get appointments to go see people. It was pure misery, and it wasn't working very well, and I was going deeper and deeper into debt, and like my whole career was not working. And that's a really awful feeling. Frankly, I was in my late 20s, and I was caught between a rock and a hard place because I couldn't make enough money as an engineer to do what I needed to do. And so here I am in sales, and I'm not making it here either. And I just, it was a really icky, uncomfortable time. I just work harder and harder and try more stuff. And I eventually figured out that my number one problem in life was simply not having enough qualified customers to talk to. Like people that are actually trying to solve a problem that I know how to solve. And the Internet ended up being a really good way to find those people. Because if they're searching on the Internet, they've already proactively attempted to find a solution. And so we figured out how to get our website in front of these people. And every day I would get probably 4 to 12 sales leads of real people at real companies with real projects. And I could email them back. I could call them on the phone. Sometimes I might go visit them. Most of the time I didn't. And all of a sudden, my whole sales career changed. It went from I'm chasing all these people around and I'm pounding the phone all the time to they come to me, I sort them out, I figure out who I can help. I don't chase anybody around. I don't beg for anything. And I'm useful in the world because I can solve a problem that somebody's got.
Yeah, a huge change.
It was better than therapy.
Yeah.
I am totally serious. And when I tell you this story, I am right back in 1997 where, I got fired from a job and, it was awful, okay? I've gotten fired from lots of jobs, by the way. It was not the first one. And I became, it was such a night and day difference, going from being a pest and starving to being a welcome guest and actually making a decent living. I was addicted. It was like crack cocaine, and I became obsessed with wow, I'm not even that good at this yet.
Yeah.
What if I became really good at this? What if I became a ninja at getting internet traffic and getting people to my website and getting publicity and having a sales funnel where there's not just one little step like a lead, but maybe several steps, and I get really great prospects delivered to me on a silver platter. How good would it be then? And I became a direct marketing maniac.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's funny because once you realize the difference between, we call it push marketing as opposed to pull marketing, pull marketing is what we do. They come to us already raising their hand going, I want exactly what you have. It changes business forever. Right? Because then there's no sales involved. We don't do sales. We actually just talk to, it's basically we design our system so that we just go, do you want these things? We got it. Come on in. That's it. And that changes how you think about business. Because I know before I even started this internet business stuff, I thought to myself, I want nothing to do with sales. So I thought that's what business was. And then you learn this kind of stuff and what you're talking about, and it changes everything.
Yes, it absolutely does. And so here I am at this company, and I worked there from 97 through 2001. I worked there for 4 years, and we grew a $200,000 a year business. So that's how big it was when I started. that basically the product department that I was in charge of, we grew it to 4 million. Which is what is that? 20x, I guess. Right? And and we sold our company to a public company for $18 million. I was not one of the owners, but I did have some stake in the company, and I got some money out of that, and I parachuted out, and I started a consulting firm. And it was like, wow, I got like a serious victory under my belt. And for me, it was because I figured out how to do direct marketing. And one of the things I want to tell you about myself is I hate being the vacuum cleaner salesman. Done that too, by the way.
Were you fired from that one?
Yeah, I retired from that.
Retired.
No
okay.
pension, no gold watch. Okay. But I hate like sticking something in somebody's face and trying to pressure them into doing it. Okay. I want to be there because they need me. Okay, and I want to be offering something that's genuinely valuable, and I was able to do that, and so I said, I think I know some things that I could sell as a consultant, and I left that job that I talked about, and I started a consulting firm. It was actually I walked out of the door a month and a day after 9/11.
Wow.
Which was a really weird time because, I worked in the industrial market. I sold industrial equipment, and the industrial market just froze after 9/11. Nobody was doing anything. The phones were silent. There was nothing going on. And our company's getting sold. Do you want a job at the new company? And my employee friends were telling me, oh, yeah, this is be good, and, we'll be at this new company, and we'll see what happens next. And my entrepreneur friends all told me, get out.
Yeah.
It's not you built this thing and it works and all these little systems and everything. The new company is not going to understand what you did. They're going to break it all to pieces, and they're not going to care about you. Take the money and run. And that's what I did. And one of them told me, they said, when the world is in turmoil, that's when there's the most opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I've heard that.
She was right. She was absolutely right. And an employee mentality person would never recognize that, but an entrepreneur does. And I'm like, that's right. 9/11 just happened. The world's in chaos. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. Step into that with something valuable to offer. And I did. And what I had to offer was, I'm a marketing consultant. I know how to generate sales leads. I know how to generate publicity. I know how to get traffic to your website. And I don't even have to be an employee. You can get rid of me in a moment's notice if you don't like me. You don't have to pay my health insurance. And I hung out my shingle, and you know what? I replaced my income in 30 days.
Nice.
Wow, nice.
And I want to encourage everybody. I mean, everybody's got a different story, and not everybody's story is like my story, but I think what we do have in common is that we're in another sort of crisis point in the world. The economy's a mess, and everything's changing, and real estate's in the toilet. Okay? That means there's a bunch of opportunities because everything's shifting around. Okay, and if you're better at reducing risk, if you're better at bringing in new customers, if you're better at web traffic than other people, then you're never going to be out of opportunities. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ever. And I just want to encourage people. I mean, maybe Google Adwords is for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe this conversation is going to be a huge help for you. Maybe something else is your thing. I don't know. But whatever it is, I just want to give you some encouragement because there's lots of opportunities. There's lots of people that they need things and they don't know how to get them.
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny because we did an episode not too long ago about how the recession is kind of a good sign that it's time for you to get into business. So that definitely nails it home as well. And really quickly, I want to fast forward to now and ask you, what is your main focus now in your business, and who do you see as your target market?
For me, well, I'm still very much in the Google AdWords business, and I guess I should actually go back to 2001. Okay, so here I'm in this consulting business, and I go out and I kind of scramble around and I get some clients and everything, but I wanted to feel like, okay, I've got people standing in line to be clients, and I'm never going to go without a paycheck. How do I do that? I've got to get leads. I got to get attention. I got to get exposure. How do I do that? And 6 months later, Google comes out with Google AdWords. Well, I loved Google already. I was an engineer, and engineers were already using Google. Maybe everybody else was using Yahoo, but, us geeks, we liked Google. So,
yeah, right.
So I started advertising on Google, and I'm like, dang, this is amazing.
Oh, especially at the beginning, right? As you're getting all the understanding of this thing that nobody knows about.
And I don't know if I'd say nobody, because there were early adopters very early on that immediately kind of started to get it, but it took a while for the rest of the world to get it. And meanwhile, Google has this, like, you can split test ads, and you can just, like, any country in the world that you want to advertise in, you could bid on a keyword and, bid 50 cents, and your ads are showing up 10 minutes later. And I mean, this was like crack cocaine, and I started experimenting with this, and it became my secret fishing hole. It's like, man, I don't want to tell anybody about this. This is so cool. And that went on for about a year. And for a year, it was my secret fishing hole, and I'm testing all kinds of stuff. I'm testing headlines and book titles and keywords, and I'm sort of figuring out the psychology of keywords and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, wow. This is amazing. And then Ken McCarthy found out, he does these really great seminars, and he found out that I was doing this, and he asked me to speak at a system seminar. And after I did that, that basically put me in the Google AdWords business, which is the business I've been in ever since. And so for 7 years, I've been teaching people Google AdWords. And that's still my main business. And, my customers are small businesses who depend on their websites to bring sales leads or sales or potential customers, what have you. And you know what? They've got to get traffic to the website today in order to eat today. That's my customer. Yeah. And they have to be smart about buying the traffic. They also have to know what to do with those people once they get to their website. And it all has to flow. And that's my customer. And, Google has grown and grown and grown, and it's changing all the time, and they're adding new features. And my job is to help my customers stay on top of it so they can be the best buyers of clicks in their niche. And so, I've made it my mission that the very best people in every market are going to be my customers because, Google's job is to thin the herd, and my job is to make them fat. My herd.
Nice. Nice. I like that a lot. So let's, let's talk a little bit more then about Google AdWords. So somebody listening to this right now might be wondering, well, why should there's a lot of different marketing channels that I could consider for bringing in those leads. Why should a marketer consider using Google AdWords?
Google AdWords is the first advertising in the history of the world. Well, pay-per-click, really. I mean, there was Yahoo Overture before that, so they weren't really the first, but they did it better than all those other guys did. And pay-per-click, what it means, first of all, is that you do a Google search, and across the top and down the right are these sponsored links, and those are there because somebody's paying to be there. It's paid advertising. So it's just like a magazine. There's the free content, which is editorial, and there's the paid content, which is the ads. And it's about the same ratio. Most magazines are about like 60% editorial, 40% advertising. Same with Google, okay? And you bid on keywords. You know, if you sell diamond rings, you bid on the word diamond ring, and you bid a certain amount of dollars or cents that you're willing to pay per click. Maybe it's 25 cents, maybe it's $1, maybe it's more than that, but you bid on keywords, you write an ad, and your ad shows when people type in those keywords, and you pay when people click on your ad to go see your website. So it's the first time in the history of the world where there was an advertising medium where you only advertise to people that are already interested, and you only pay when you get a chance to tell them what you have to say. So it's really targeted. It's not like a billboard that advertises like, geez, there's a billboard 10 miles from here on the expressway that advertises Rolex watches or something, but gee, you know, only 1 person in 1,000 is even interested in a Rolex watch, right? Yeah. So there's all this waste in most advertising. Google is much more efficient, okay? And so it's anybody, Google search advertising in particular, is very relevant to you if you know that people are thinking about a problem and typing it into a search engine and looking for a solution. If you know your customers are doing that and you know what they might be typing in, then you can get right in front of them. And you can actually find out, well, how many are there and what does that actually look like? You can just go to Google, type in Google Keyword Tool, and click on the first link you see, and you could type in diamond ring, and you could find out exactly how many people search for diamond ring every month. It might be 246,000 people search for that, and you might find that 180,000 people search for diamond engagement ring, and all these different things, and you could bid on all those, and you can see how much competition there is. And so it's a whole branch of advertising that sprang into existence called keyword-based marketing. And then there's another side to it, too, which is called content traffic, which is there's ads on hundreds of thousands of websites. If you go to the NewYorkTimes.com and you go to the bottom, there's little Google ads at the bottom of the New York Times website. And you'll see that those ads are roughly related to what the article is about. And so somebody's reading an article about mortgages, and you see ads about mortgage rates in the Google ads. And you can click on them and, you know, go to somebody who's offering mortgages. And so you can also advertise all over the Internet on Google's content network because they're on hundreds of thousands of websites. So it's an entire specialty in advertising now, and what's neat about it is that you can create different ads, you can run them all at the same time, you can test them against each other, you can test different advertising messages, so you could find it, you know, maybe your ad talks about the price, or maybe your ad talks about the delivery time, or maybe your ad talks about the colors or the selection, or it talks about the pain that the customer's in, and you can test and you can find out what kind of message appeals to people, what makes them click on an ad, and so it's like practicing psychology without a license, which is really fun. And a lot of people, they crawl into this thing and they go, dang, this is fascinating, and they become an addict. They become kind of like me. So, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, when you can go to the customer and find out exactly what they want and think, how can you not love that?
Right.
And let them tell it to you, you know.
Especially if you like the quirkiness of people, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so we teach a lot about free traffic and the type of traffic to get started when you're bootstrapping. When would you say that a marketer should add Google AdWords to their traffic portfolio?
Well, I've got a customer who decided that he wanted to be in the coffee business. And he was looking at all the different ways that he could do that. And he was a serial entrepreneur, by the way. He had been involved in numerous other startups, and he had a lot of experience under his belt. And so they went around and they looked at different websites they could buy and different domains they could buy. And they found this one company that they were showing up on the first page of Google through natural search engine optimization. They were doing like $3 million a year of coffee business. And, you could put on your MBA hat and you could figure out what a coffee distributor that does $3 million worth of sales might be worth. Maybe they're worth $1 million a year, $2 million a year. And, you could buy this company, it would be yours. And they're getting this free traffic, and, you could do all the numbers. Well, he was smart enough to ask a whole bunch of questions of the owner and all this kind of stuff, and he eventually kind of figured out that these people were terrified of making any changes to their website because what if they did something Google didn't like and they disappeared?
Yeah.
That $3 million business could evaporate and be gone, okay? Now, his contention, and I agree with him, is that company did not really own a business. It was a promotion, and it was just based on them being lucky enough to get free traffic. My contention is if your business model is dependent on getting free traffic, you do not have a business.
Yeah.
You do not have a business unless you can afford to buy the advertising necessary to get the customers. Okay? And yeah, free traffic is like crack cocaine, but that withdrawal really sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, when your business disappears, that would be bad.
Yeah, it really sucks, and your wife is mad at you, and your dog is mad at you, your kids are mad at you. And so my contention is Google AdWords is one of the first things you should do. If you haven't even gotten started yet, you should figure out how to be in a business where you can go buy $1 of advertising and sell $2 of product and at least break even acquiring a customer so that when they come back and buy the next thing that you make a profit. That's a sane business. That's something you can actually do and depend on, and it's actually worth money. Now see, if somebody had a coffee business and they were spending $500,000 a year on traffic and selling $3 million a year on margin, or getting $3 million a year of sales, and they had X gross margin and Y, net profit and everything, that is a real business that's worth paying real money for.
Right.
Okay, and so I think it should be one of the first things that you do. Okay. Now, I used to tell people it's definitely the first thing you should do. Now I hedge that a little bit, and here's what I mean. Google AdWords is very competitive. Okay, and you'll usually, if you're in a really competitive market like coffee or something, you're going to have to sharpen your pencil before you're going to make a profit selling a brand new customer right off of Google, okay? And there may be less expensive, somewhat probably less predictable traffic sources out there that you might want to start with. But I'll tell you this, if you plan on being a real player in a real market, then Google AdWords is your benchmark. If you can go into that market and you can buy those clicks, and you get the ads right, the landing pages right, the language right, the shopping cart right, you make all that work, you can probably then go everywhere else and buy advertising and know that you're saying the right thing, that you're pushing the right emotional buttons, that your sales process works, and that you can make money everywhere, not just in one place. And like, for example, I think maybe a lot of people might have heard of The Secret, that DVD set about law of attraction, everything.
Yeah.
They got that right on Google Adwords before Oprah grabbed a hold of it and said, hey, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Or like, there's a really popular book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. He came up with that title by testing all kinds of crazy names with Google Ads.
Yeah, and in fact, I think we interviewed him, and I think he even mentioned that it was him and his the book people. They thought that was a crazy name, but he had tested it or whatever, and that's what people liked.
Yeah. Yeah, like, hey, dude, you might think this is a silly book title, but, John Q. Public out there on Google's content network likes it.
That's what they clicked on.
That's really kind of what it came down to.
Right.
It's a way of doing your due diligence.
Yeah. Well, and I want to underscore what you're saying, because that's really powerful. I mean, you're saying if you can go into Google AdWords, and there may be a ramp up time of tweaking it in just right, but if you are performing well with Google AdWords, you know that you've, maybe hit the copy just right. You've hit the offer just right. If the finances are working out, meaning yes, you're spending X amount on AdWords, but you know that you're making back X plus or X times a certain amount within, a month or 2 months. You know that your finances work out such, that the whole funnel is solid. And if it's working there, then why not go buy as much ad inventory as you possibly can through whatever other routes is possible, because the system is working. The offer is working. The finances are all lined up in a row, and you've now got a business, and all you have to do is just multiply it again and again and again and again.
That's exactly right. And, the word you used, I want to focus on it. You said multiply. Okay, now that is the whole core of internet marketing. Okay, if you want to get down to what really makes an online business tick, it's multiplication. And I have this concept that I call the expanding universe theory. It's Perry's expanding universe theory of internet marketing, which is you start by going where the hottest market is, which Google AdWords is typically a good place to find a hot market, because you find out the keywords and the traffic is there and people trust Google and all that, and you make it work. You tweak it, you play with it until it works. All right. Well, then you go to Yahoo and Bing. You could start with Yahoo and Bing if you wanted, especially if it's really steep learning curve. But you start with one pay-per-click search engine, then you go to the second one, right?
Yeah.
And then you do search engine optimization so you can get the free traffic, and you do it based on the keywords that you figured out you really did want instead of the keywords you thought you wanted. Okay, because pay-per-click will help you sift through that. Okay. Then you go buy ads and e-zines, and you go, you build an affiliate network, and you get affiliates to sell your stuff, and you do free publicity, and you send out postcards, and you do all this other stuff. And what happens is, when you get it right in the first step, then all the other steps is like knocking over dominoes. Yeah. And when you properly plan this out, your business has this exponential, boom. It's like the sonic boom, where you might triple, quadruple your business in 6 months, and it's not even that hard.
Man, I love it.
That is how it works. Okay, and it's not like spray and pray. It's like, get your message right, get your market right, get the right keywords, match to the right people and the right offer, and make it work, and then you expand outward. And that is how successful internet businesses grow. So what that means is, if you do the Google thing right, and then you're not lazy and you just go out and do the other things you're supposed to do, your business will not be dependent on Google or really any one thing.
Absolutely. Well, and that's some invaluable advice that you've given right there. And I want to ask you some more questions now along the lines of how to get started with AdWords and what some of the most common mistakes are, some of the biggest opportunities in Google AdWords right now. That's going to be in the next portion, which is going to be found on our Academy for our Academy members. And of course, anybody who's an Academy member will be able to find this complete interview with Perry inside the membership site under the Grill the Guru section over there. And if you're not an Academy member, you can always go try get our risk-free trial at freeaudiogift.com and get access to the rest of this interview. But for those of our audience who are listening to this through the show right now, can you go ahead and let them know if they're listening to this and going, okay, awesome, I need to dive in and start learning more about this Google AdWords. Basically, I guess the best place to start would be with your definitive guide, right?
I think that's become the Bible of Google advertising, really. And we update it regularly, and it's current, and it'll show you a step-by-step way of like wading into that raging river and getting traction. At first, it may be with just a very few carefully selected keywords, and then expanding outward just methodically. And I also want to mention that, if you're in a super competitive national market like mortgages or weight loss, and you're advertising all over the country, then, you really got to sharpen your pencil and be really good at this. There's a lot of niches, a lot of industries, a lot of businesses where you just need to be reasonably competent. Okay, if you're a local business, you're like a chiropractor or an attorney or something like that, or if you're in a niche where it's not dominated by super uber black belts, I think you can read the first 3 or 4 chapters of the definitive guide and you will be set up. And you'll be doing it properly, and you'll be better than 90% of the other guys right out of the gate.
Absolutely, and I can attest to that myself. I mean, like Sterling has said, both of us early on, we bought your definitive guide. It's been around for years, but you update it regularly. I mean, you have a brand new 2010 version, but a lot of the listeners know my very first product was I did a seminar about real estate investing and how to market to find buyers and sellers. And then I turned that into a product, and one of the first things I did is read your guide and started putting ads, pay-per-click Google AdWords up. And that's how I drove traffic to sell those courses. And that's how I started my first income stream online. And I got the traffic through Google AdWords as learned by your definitive guide. And anybody who's interested in grabbing that can, if you go to internetbusinessmastery.com/AdWords, that will take you over to Perry's site. You can also find out more about Perry at perrymarshall.com.
Yeah, so I just want to encourage people, don't walk into a battle with plastic swords and helmets. Just learn what you need to learn. My job is to save you from paying Google stupidity tax. And by the way, that rolls right into, I think, an important point. Is one of the most important things you can know about Google. Is Google's system is inherently built to reward smart advertisers and punish the dumb ones. Okay? No exaggeration. That's really just how it works. And so, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is when you do Google search, you search for red silk tie or some such thing, it is entirely possible and in fact likely that you look at, you could have 2 ads right next to each other. You may have no idea which ad is better or worse, but one advertiser is paying 3 times as much for every click as the one right next to him. And not only that, one of those advertisers could be converting 3 times more clicks to sales as the one right next to him, to where the difference to their bottom line is literally 10 to 1. And you would never know it just by looking at their ads and looking at their websites.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, and it's like it's this invisible punishment or reward system. Okay, because Google rewards people for making ads that get clicked on and ads that are relevant. And you can get higher and higher click-through rates by writing better and better ads and trim your bids lower and lower and lower and still stay in that same sweet spot. And you could potentially be paying half or a fourth as much for your clicks as the guy who's right next to you.
Hence the need to sharpen your pencil so that you're not the one paying 10 times more.
Right. And and there's a long line of people, trying to get their ads onto the first page. So Google's got no lack of customers, and your job is to just connect with your customers, and you'll find that you could change one word in an ad, and the response to the ad doubles instantly. And it's equivalent. So Google basically says, well, there's two ways that you can get more traffic. You could pay us more money, or you could write better ads. It's up to you, whichever you want. You write twice as good of an ad and get twice as much traffic for the same amount of money, or you could just pay twice as much money. So which would you rather do? That's how it works.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things that actually makes it such an efficient system. But I want to step back a bit here, because you said, so you told us that this is a great way to prove the business concept. It's a great way to start getting traffic even right from the beginning. And if you can make that work, then you've got a business. But if I'm a beginner and I'm listening to this, I'm probably thinking, okay, I may or may not even have a product yet. So I'm trying to just build my list, trying to, drive people to my site so that they get my content. They're starting to trust me, to see what the demand in the market is. Maybe find out what my product should be. And so maybe that person's listening and going, well, I'm not even making money quite yet. So I'm not sure, I don't know if I'm ready to go and start dumping money into AdWords because I don't have anything to make money back on the back end. So what would you say to that person, who's in that spot, considering whether or not to start investing in Google AdWords?
Well, there's an advantage to not having it all figured out, on your first day in business, which is you can walk into the whole scenario with a lot less preconceived notions. Okay, you're actually at an advantage. I had this guy came up to me in a seminar once, and he had written this book, and he told me that he had 150,000 copies of his book in a warehouse, or $150,000 worth, or something like that. I think it was like,
Either way, it's a lot.
It was a lot. And he's like, yeah. I have to sell these books. And I'm looking at his book and what the topic is and everything I know about marketing, and I'm like, there ain't no way he's selling all these books. I watch him. He's at the seminar. Every single speaker, he's at the microphone. He's asking all these questions. He's trying to figure out how to sell his book. And I'm thinking, maybe I should have just told him, dude, you're screwed. Give up. Do something else. Drop it. Maybe I should have done that. I didn't. But I'm sitting there going, if this guy wasn't so attached to his pet project, his mind would be open to all the opportunities that he's learning about at the seminar. And so if you're kind of just sticking your toe in the water, here's my advice to you. You could try this once. You could try this in 10 different markets at once. I don't really care how you do it. But what I suggest you do is go into market, offer something for free, even if it's just a download or a piece of software or a report or a video or an MP3 or a podcast, something, and put yourself in that stream of traffic and collect some opt-in email addresses and start talking to the people who show up about what they're thinking about, what they want, what they love, what they hate, and what it is. Here's the thing. What is it that they wish they could find but that they just can't find? Every market has some unmet needs. Now, not everyone. There's actually markets that don't have any unmet needs, and you can't make any money in them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here's an example. I know one guy thought, man, look, there's 10 million searches every month on typing lessons. And then he figures out there's 100 different free software that you can install on your computer to teach you how to type, and really there's no money in that market. There's things like that, okay? But if you put yourself in front of those people and they start telling you, you know what, I would kill for something that solves problem X, but I just can't find a way to do it. Okay, when somebody tells you that, there's money there.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what you're looking for. Gary Halbert, the late Gary Halbert, had this great phrase, and he said he'd get up in front of an audience and he would say, I'm going to start a restaurant. You guys are all marketers. What do I need in order to make a lot of money in the restaurant business? And everybody's like, oh, you need a good location, you need a great building, you need a great menu, you need great hamburgers, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, well, you guys all forgot one thing. I got one thing that's better than all your great ideas. He goes, it's a starving crowd.
Yeah.
If I got a starving crowd, I'll make all kinds of money, even if I have crummy hamburgers. And that's the thing. Find the starving crowd. And there are ways of figuring it. There are ways of looking at the Google search results and doing keyword research where you begin to figure out where the starving crowds really are. And then you can do surveys and things, and you can find exactly, these people, the world has given them everything they want except this one thing, and they'll pay a lot of money for it. That's a great day when you figure that out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying go ahead and use, even early on, go ahead and invest the money and use Google AdWords as a discovery tool to start finding out what people are clicking on, getting those people somewhere, offering them something free, building a list, and figuring out what they want, and use it as a discovery tool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have done that numerous times myself. There's a couple of projects where what I did was I take people to an opt-in page, I promise them some free content, then I give them a free PDF or a video, and then I send them email messages after they opt in and invite them to come converse with me on my blog and discuss things. And you get all these blog comments and people saying, maybe arguing or debating or what have you, and you figure out what are the unscratched itches. And it's a powerful form of market research. And you just go, you know what? I'm just going to listen to these people. I'm going to figure out what they want. I'm going to give it to them. And that is so much easier than being the guy that wrote the book and spent the $150,000 and now he's all blinded by his new invention.
Yeah, without even knowing if anybody wanted it.
Right. Yeah, it was a fiction book, by the way, which is even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know how to sell fiction on Google AdWords. I think you could do it on Facebook, but I'm not so sure about Google AdWords.
Interesting. Well, okay, so, there's a lot to learn with this. When a beginner is starting with AdWords, which way do you think they should go? The do-it-yourself route where they, learn about it and test it by themselves, or have somebody else manage it for them?
I think you should do it yourself. Hiring somebody to manage it for you without first understanding how it works, it's sort of like hiring an accountant and not knowing anything about money. I don't know how a person would evaluate a pay-per-click management company if they haven't ever done this themselves. And if you're if you run a $10 million company and you're the CEO, then I think it may very well make sense for you to go hire somebody to do it. But if you're a startup, you need to get in there and do it yourself. It's as close as you can get to your customers without actually going to see them. It's as close as you can get to what's really going on the internet. And I'm just telling you, there's a stage at which you have crawled inside the machine of the internet deep enough that you really understand how it works. You realize to most people the internet is like this mystery box.
Yeah.
You know, and they type something in and these results come up and they click on it and they don't really know how it got there or why it's there. They just happen to know that most of the time they seem to find what they want and they're happy with it. Well, you know, that kind of understanding that's good enough if you're a shopper. That is not good enough if you're the merchant. You need to crawl inside the machine and you need to understand how it works. And there is no better way to do that than buying clicks. It's like, okay, I'm bidding on these 6 different keywords and I got 76 clicks on this one, and I got 8 clicks on this one, I got 14 clicks on this one, and this is the percentage of people that saw my ad, that clicked, and these are the pages they land on, and this is where they go when they get to my site, and this is what they like, and this is what they don't like. That is what's going to make you money in business. You know, you can't just, like, abdicate this to somebody and pray that it works, because most of the time it won't. So don't underestimate what you're up against. I mean, don't overthink it and analyze it to death. But I think you need to do this.
Interesting. Well, that makes a lot of sense. There's some important lessons to learn, a connection to your market that will come from it, and you'll see a lot in the trends. And you know, as a strategist and as the person who knows the market, but once it's up in, I mean, let's say you've been doing it for a while and it is kind of you've kind of identified the trends, you've gotten the click. The per click down and kind of optimize that a bit, and now it's even profitable for you. Does there come a time where you go, okay, now I'm going to hand this over? I guess you have a couple choices. You either hire someone and bring them onto your staff, maybe, because it can take a lot of time to always be in there managing it. Is there a point at which you finally go, okay, now it's time to hand this over to somebody else?
I'm sure it can be, and you know, if you're at that stage, you could go to my site and open a support ticket. We do have a short list of consultants that we've trained that are good at it, and you know, that could be okay. But what I do recommend is that, okay, I believe direct marketing is for people who spend their own money on advertising. It's pretty much in the world, actually. If you go look around, you will see there's pretty much a chasm, and here's what the chasm is. There are direct marketing companies that it's marketing that has to sell. Okay?
Yeah.
You know, the Sky Mall catalog in the airplane is marketing that has to sell. Okay, everything is there because they're either willing to bet on it or it's paying off. Okay, now if you get the Southwest Airlines travel magazine and it's got the advertisements for the Vegas casinos, those casinos may not have any way of knowing that somebody saw the ad and came to the casino. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the guys in the Sky Mall catalog, that Sky Mall catalog is owned by somebody who is involved in the marketing on a daily basis. Probably the president of Sky Mall knows the advertising buys and the rates and the printing costs and the ROIs and everything. Okay? Now the casino, that advertising was probably bought by a marketing manager who, you know, studied marketing in college, and they look good, they smell good, they smile nice and everything like that, but if their life depended on people responding to their advertising, they'd starve.
Yeah.
Okay? Brand advertising. And there's this huge chasm between the brand advertising side of the world and the direct marketing side of the world. And if you are a small business with a website and you've got a shopping cart and a merchant account and people have to come and buy your stuff, or you don't eat, then you're in the direct marketing business. And direct marketing businesses are almost always run by a person whose right hand is on the throttle of the marketing and they're intimately involved in it. And marketing is the hardest thing in a business to outsource. of all the things you could outsource. You know, product development, product fulfillment, accounting, payroll, you know, virtual assistant, all that kind of stuff. You can outsource that. But your marketing, it's your face, it's your identity, it's your message, is the hardest thing to market. And I know very few people who outsource their marketing, and it works. And I just think if you're a small business owner, you say, I am going to be in charge of marketing. I'm not going to abdicate it. I'm not going to just like turn it over to somebody else and hope and pray. I'm going to be in charge of this. I am in charge of getting customers in the door. That is my number one job. And everything else comes after that. Well, you can outsource the payroll and outsource the accounting and outsource all kinds of stuff. And as long as you know what's going on in the marketing, you'll make money.
Well, that's powerful advice. And certainly the goal for all entrepreneurs is to get to the point where that is their primary focus and they've gotten all that other stuff off their plate. Let's see, we've been talking to you for a while. Are you okay for another question or two? We want to be respectful of your time. Awesome.
We're having a good time here.
Awesome. Hey, well, you've given us such great advice already. Another thing we want to ask you is, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see people making with Google AdWords?
Okay, I'll give you. This is a really useful list, by the way, so please pay attention. Mistake numero uno is mixing the content network with search traffic. Okay, so when you open a Google account, you just kind of go through their steps, which is really easy. I mean, it'd take you 5 minutes to open a Google account and spend $5. By default, your ads will show both to Google searches and to, you know, the New York Times website or all these other websites. Your ads will appear in both places, and the first thing you need to do is you need to just split those up and have one campaign that's for search and another campaign that's for content, because search and content are two different animals. They're apples and oranges, and you don't mix them together.
Some of us learned that the hard way. Yeah, it's really, there's a lot of money that gets wasted from that. Yeah, in your book, I think you mentioned that right off, and I thought, I'm just going to see. It's even worse, because I was reading your book. I didn't even try Google AdWords until I actually got it, and I was just like, well, let's just see. And just one day I went, wow, there went all my money for the day. Really quick.
Well, if it's in the first few chapters of our book, it's really important, and that's like one of the first things. So there's that. Okay, the second thing that you should be doing is you should be tracking conversions. Okay, and what that means is you should be tracking, okay, of all the people that came and clicked on this ad, how many did what I wanted them to do? You know, how many of them downloaded the free video or bought the product or subscribed to the email list or whatever. Google gives you a little piece of code in their conversion tracking menu where you can stick it on the thank you page and you can track that, and they actually add a column to all your reports that tells you, it defines everything in terms of what percentage of people who searched actually clicked and bought the product or subscribed or opted in or generated a sales lead or whatever, okay? And that's really what you're in the business of buying. You're in the business of buying actions taken, not just visitors to your website. And again, that goes to what I was saying before about, you know, if a person doesn't really have their hand on the throttle and know what's going on, then their website is just this thing out there that people are supposed to go to and somehow turn into customers. You have to understand the steps they go through, okay? And you need to measure those steps with conversion tracking. Now, here's a third mistake. And by the way, if you avoid these three mistakes, you're off to a pretty good start, okay? There's a lot more things I'd really like you to know, but this is a good start. So here's the third mistake. Let's say that you sold men's clothing on your website. Your business was billsclothingstore.com. Okay, the typical Google advertiser, here's what he'll do. He'll open an account. He'll write an ad that says, Bill's Clothing Store, since 1974, excellent fashions and low prices, billsclothing.com. Okay, so they write this ad, and they bid on ties and cufflinks and socks and sweaters and pants and blue blazers and stuff, and they send people to their website, like to the homepage. Okay? Now, to the uninitiated, what I just described, you listen to that and you go, okay, so what's wrong with that?
Sounds good.
Yeah,
to me.
it sounds like any Yellow Book ad. Yeah,
it's like, so there's something wrong with that? Oh, yeah, it's all wrong. Yeah. It's completely wrong, and it will never work. If you do what I just described, it will never work in a million years. You will waste your money and go belly up. No exaggeration. Okay? So here's what you really have to do. You probably want to pick one product that you have. And by the way, I'm going to assume that you're an e-commerce store, not just trying to get local people to come to the mall. Okay? Like I'm assuming this is shopping cart, maybe you're shipping these things all over the place. Because, when I talked about multiplication, you kind of have to have a business that could be multiplied,
Yeah.
If your market is Grand Rapids, Michigan, and you're a clothing store, the internet might increase your business 10%, but it's not going to go exponential. Okay, so I'm talking to the person that wants to go exponential and really own an online business. Well, so what you probably need to do is you need to look at all the different product lines you have, and you have to ask yourself, what do I sell that's sufficiently unique and sufficiently cool that I could sell this all over the country and really compete with everybody else and, do respectably well? And it's like, well, we got this special line of silk ties that hardly anybody else carries, and they're really super awesome, and they're made in Italy. And, they're more expensive than most silk ties, but, look at these beautiful colors and the way they're made, and I can tell the story about the craftsmen in Italy and everything. Okay, you probably start with that. Okay, and you write an ad about your silk ties, and you bid on silk ties, and you take them to a page about the silk ties. And they ought to be able to type in red silk tie, see your ad, go, oh, that's interesting. Italian craftsmanship, whatever. They click, there it is. It's the pictures, the description, the romance, and everything. Add to cart, checkout, boom, done.
Yeah, without going to their main page. Yeah, exactly. Instead of just going to their main boring page, it's every single aspect is based on that special item.
Right. Because, in a real mall, people have to walk from the front of the store to the back of the store to the tie rack. But online, don't even dream of making them walk all the way back there. It's like Star Trek. You beam them right in front of the tie rack. There they are.
Yeah,
they're looking at the ties. And
very nice.
If you're sophisticated, then after they buy the tie, you ask them if they want cufflinks to go with it. But
sure.
There's all the tie. So, I just encapsulated, that's like the biggest mistake people make, is you go deep. You go deep on a few narrow things, and you fight battles you can win, and you make it really easy for people to decide.
Very, very nice. Well, we got just one more question. It's a big one, and that is, what is the biggest opportunity right now in paid advertising?
Ooh. In general?
Well, paid advertising online, let's say, pay-per-click style, or just paid advertising online.
Well, you know what? I'll totally switch gears on you, and I'll say Facebook pay-per-click is a very untapped market right now. We've spent our whole time talking about Google. Okay. And Google and Facebook are very different animals. But if you have a Facebook account, you've seen all those ads over on the right side. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
If what you sell, so Google is like the Yellow Pages, and Facebook is like a coffee shop.
Interesting. Okay.
That's how you should think of it. Okay? So, can you sell stuff in the Yellow Pages? Of course you can. Can you sell stuff in a coffee shop? Well, yeah, you can. What do you sell at a coffee shop? Well, you don't sell plumbing. You don't sell new cars, probably. You don't sell rubber gaskets, but you sell music, you sell art, you have political discussions, you have memberships, you have clubs, you have hobbies, and, the Women's Sewing Club comes in at 9:30 every Thursday morning. That's the kind of stuff that works on Facebook.
Interesting. Okay.
It's very different than Google, and some business could work on both. And Google sorts people by what they're interested in. Facebook sorts people by who they are.
So what's the distinction there?
Well, okay, so in Google you bid on something like red silk ties, and on the Google search engine people type in red silk ties. Or, on the content network, they're looking at some kind of ties or something, and there's your ad, on the right side, and it's a Google ad for your silk ties, and people could come and buy that. Well, you can't bid on red silk ties on Facebook, because Facebook doesn't allow you to do that. What you bid on in Facebook is what's in people's profile.
Yeah.
My favorite band is the Rolling Stones, or, I'm a woman age 36, or my favorite TV show is Lost. Okay, that's the kind of stuff you bid on in Facebook. It's like who they are, what they are into, that's what you could target in Facebook. If you want to go deeper into the Facebook rabbit hole, it'll take. I've got one thing that'll take you deep into both rabbit holes. If you go to my website, on the left side you'll see a link that says Maui Seminar. And we did a seminar just less than a month ago in Maui, Hawaii, and we spent 2 days on Google Adwords and half a day on Facebook and half a day on other things. And we went way deep on this stuff. I mean, totally state of the art. And it's not cheap, but that program, if you want to purchase it, that will get you to an absolute rock concert, state of the art in pay-per-click marketing right now. Like all the way from A to Z. If you're a serious marketer, I think it'll help you. So, I know you guys can put a link to your website. Maybe that'll speed people up in finding that. But because I don't want people to get lost, it's not real prominent. But I tell you, there are a lot of exciting things going on in the world right now. And you know what? There are a lot of people who are waking up every morning and they're going, I got to sell somebody some advertising, and they want to put your ads in front of their customers. So it's a great time to be alive.
All right, this episode's breakthrough comes from Kenneth Bird, an Academy member, and he posted the following to the forum, some really exciting stuff that I wanted to share here on the episode with the community as well. And here's what Kenneth said. My wife and I just launched our first website using the Internet Business Mastery Academy approach, and we're so proud. Traffic on day one was very good for a new site. We had a countdown page up for a few weeks that generated several opt-ins for us. We used Twitter before the site officially launched to begin interacting with our target market, and we already have 65 plus subscribers on our email list. And I just want to pause here to point out, he wrote this the day after they had launched. So we're talking within a day, he had 65 plus people signed up for his mailing list, which is awesome. Of course, all because of that, building up following on Twitter as they were kind of getting things put together, which is a great way to go about it.
Well, and I wanted to mention, too, that sometimes we don't even get 65 subscribers in a day.
Right.
After all these years. So that's awesome.
So then he continues, we used a site name that targets very specific keywords, and we're already listed on the first page of Google. We haven't done any internet marketing or link building so far. Now we just have to monetize it. So thanks very much, Kenneth. Congratulations. That's awesome, that progress. I think that's brilliant. I mean, that's such a great idea. Twitter's an awesome place to start interacting with your market, even before you've got a site, even before you've got an email list. And that's why it's an important part of those early modules inside of the Academy. And what we teach is how to do that. So then you can start list building very, very quickly. We're thrilled to hear that it's going so well for you. And anybody that wants to check out Kenneth's site, you can go to naturalhaircommunity.com.
Yeah, it's so nice to see somebody actually use what we teach. and then they get to see the results. This is what happens. And remember, there's a live question and answer call each month for Academy members where you can ask us anything about starting and running an internet business. If you're not a member, no problem. Just go to internetbusinessmasteryacademy.com and sign up now.
It's time for the Internet Business Quick Tip.
All right, so on this quick tip, let's talk about Twitter and Facebook again. How to manage Twitter and Facebook. It's so funny because it seems like the tools, of course, I mean, Facebook and Twitter are changing all the time, and the tools that you use for them are changing all the time. And I know we've had to have had a quick tip in the past talking about, I don't know, TweetDeck and some of the other things we've used, which are also great tools. And I don't think there's any one right answer as to what is the best tool for posting to Facebook and Twitter or managing your Facebook and Twitter. But I guess just wanted to give a little bit of an update on what we're doing in the latest. I find myself, and I think you as well, Sterling, lately using Hootsuite a lot. HOOTSUITE, Hootsuite.com, in order to post to Facebook and Twitter. And I think you actually started using it before I did. What was it that what are the kind of features that have drawn you to Hootsuite and using it quite a bit?
Well, actually, first off, it was the reason I went to Hootsuite was TweetDeck started having some major problems.
Right.
And I went into their forums and the guy just kept blaming our systems on it. And it's one of those things where I'm like, offer me some solution, something, like just saying it must be my system. Well, why did one day it had been working for the last year and now it's not? I mean, and he wasn't saying it was an update. So it was one of those things where I just was like, I can't have it do what it's doing. So I remembered seeing Hootsuite before. And when I was looking at the different, things that were out now, one of the things that Hootsuite did that I really liked was, you could just schedule tweets and the way they managed their site. Now they have statistics and stuff that are cool to see. And I just thought, okay, this works well. And it worked within the browser rather than being, a desktop application, I guess. And I guess that was one of the problems I was having. I wanted to be able to just go online and see it on a page instead of, being on my desktop. So that was the main reason. And now I really enjoy using it. And it does all the things really, really well that it's supposed to do.
Yeah, you can access multiple accounts. You can select which accounts you want a post to go to. You can schedule posts ahead of time, which is really handy as well. Set up different columns to follow different kinds of things, integrates Facebook and Twitter both really well. And I think, you can throw other stuff in there too, Foursquare, et cetera, whatever else you might be using too. So anyway, there's a few of the reasons why we've started using Hootsuite lately. Again, there's no one right, correct answer to the question of which is best. It kind of depends on what your needs are. But just wanted to share with you our latest kind of what we've been up to, why we switched over to Hootsuite, and maybe that helps some of you out who are looking for the best solution for you.
If you'd like to get dozens of resources such as this one, you can find them in the Internet Business Mastery Academy, along with video tutorials showing you exactly how we use many of them. So to get your risk-free trial membership to the Academy, go to internetbusinessmasteryacademy.com.
You've been listening to the iconoclasts of the 9 to 5 Sterling and Jay. Sterling and Jay invite you to discover one of their most popular video programs ever, the Online Business Freedom Formula. Visit freevideogift.com right now to get instant access to this life-changing video series, pulled directly from the acclaimed Internet Business Mastery Academy membership community. Go now to freevideogift.com. Take control. Make more money. Start an internet business today.